Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Today I'm going to take an element that I previously created for webcomponents.org. In this case it's called lrndesign-panelcard. And I'm going to add in the wiring required to make this both OER schema capable as well as HAX capable. So this is an element that we produced previously. You can check it out. It's on webcomponents.org. And what it used to do is it implemented a prototype version of HAX we had previously where things could be put into a HAX capable state and then kind of had some awareness of their own properties. The problem with this approach was that it was actually, these tags lived in the element itself. And so we had to have all of this, there was a lot of overhead involved just to put this one tag on the page. We could have handled it by not loading all the imports, but instead, we've opted for the new way we do HAX that you may have seen. If you go to haxtheweb.org, you'll see a demo that looks something like this, in which it's telling you about the project, and then you can click the power button and just start manipulating. So what we're going to show with that lrndesign-panelcard is how do we get stuff into this gizmos area. And so the point of HAX is not, hey, here's these wonderful things we've blessed you all with, and you can use these 7 items, some of which are super specific to education. No. So this video is going to help you take an element you've already created and add in the wiring necessary to do this. Now we're going to show this in a Polymer concept. Down the road, I will show this with vanilla components. It's possible to get vanilla components to register against this as well, but for today we're going to stick to Polymer. So how do we get something to show up here? Well, you can read a whole bunch of the documentation if you want, or you can just watch this video. So what I have here is a lrndesign-panelcard. I've gutted all the stuff out of it that we had previously, except for just the basics. So we've got a heading that can be added in, and we've got text area, and it can accept a color, and you can see that in the demo here, that it can accept these things. So how do we wire this up so that we can make it available in our Gizmo browser here, which means we could drop it into this whole HAX authoring system. So let's go and look at that. So we've got a lrndesign-panelcard, and just to briefly cover what it is, you see it's using paper card. It's using something called materialized styles, CSS styles, which is so that you can use materialized CSS class conventions. So you can say things are blue and they'll be the Google version of blue. It's a little shorthand we wrote. So you can see there's not a lot to this element. It registers itself as an aside, which is useful for screen readers and printing purposes. And then it's got a paper card with binding to elevation, color, text color, and a title. So if I put in a title, it's going to show up. Any content I throw in the middle, it's going to have in its slot area. I will preface this by saying HAX isn't perfect when it comes to handling these slotted tags. Still need to clean up some stuff there, but we're going to wire it up anyway. So if you're not familiar with behaviors in Polymer, you can reference kind of parts of another element and it'll mix it in. So you can see we have a title, color, text color, and elevation. So let's go about wiring that up. The best way to get started, you can read the documentation for it. There's documentation on the little project site itself, or if we go to LRN Web Components and we type in HAX Body -behaviors, this is the thing we're actually going to need to add in. And so HAX Body behaviors has structure and it has some examples of how to implement this so that you can get it wired up. And then it shows an example of gizmo wiring. In the case of CSV table, talks through a lot of the implications of this, what you can do with it, how to add multiples. So most of the documentation is going to be in the HAX-Body-behaviors area as to how this works. So let's look at an example that's already done. So video-player has HAX-Body-behaviors. So for one, I want to implement that in my new one. And so I'm going to add this reference up here. And I've got a terminal window open. I'm going to go over to my lrndesign-panelcard, and I need to Bower install that. And it's behaviors. So I've got Bower install save, LRN web components, HAX Body behaviors. So we're going to get those dependencies. It's going to ask about web component version. I'm still rocking v0. I'm also going to go and get schema behaviors just to get it out of the way. What schema behaviors are is it's some wiring to do some automatic wiring of this element for schema, both OER schema and just schema.org. So first let's do the HAX aspect of this. So I've got my dependencies in place. Now when I refresh my panel card, nothing. There shouldn't be any difference. Yay. So let's go and with HAX Body behaviors, let's look in the video player for how to implement this. So let's go down a little bit and we see in the behaviors we have this HAX Behaviors .property behaviors. And so I'm going to copy that in to my behaviors area of this Polymer element. Okay, do some spacing for when I add more. And so it's going to now mix in these HAX Behaviors property behaviors. Looking at video player, scroll down, you see there's nothing different here. Yeah, this is just kind of a generic Polymer element here. Where you get into the actual getting this ready for HAX is we have to tell it uses behavior, and then in the attached lifecycle hook, we need to tell HAX and fire, basically call a function. Tell HAX, hey, by the way, this is how you interface with me. And so quickly reading through what the video player is doing, it's saying, hey, if I'm displayed on the body of the page, right? So if I'm here in this case, and you select me, you can scale me and you can position me in a different direction. So this little panel card, we have to then say, okay, do we want this panel card, which looks like a sticky note, to be something that people can scale and position dynamically? And I would say yes. So we'll say that they can scale it, they can position it. We're going to say false on editing source. That hasn't been implemented yet, but it'll be later on as to whether or not you can actually hit a view source type of button and edit the HTML directly. Then we get into the gizmo aspect, where this is to make it show up on the gizmo board that, hey, this is a video player, and you should present it as a play circle, and it is able to handle video from a source is where you should put its URL if you have one. So we're not really going to need that handler aspect. We can put text in the case of panel card, but panel card can't express some of the nuanced things that would be needed to do anything more detailed than just, hey, handling this URL. That's pretty much as verbose as it gets right now with the gizmos part. And then you can see so we get out of gizmo and get into settings. So this is what settings are presented when we're editing this quickly. So we have this is a property, and the property name is this, title, description, how you would edit this, whether it's Boolean or color picker or text or whatever, and an icon. And the icon, all of these are relating to right here. So this is your quick editing mode. And so those settings are going to propagate and show up here. Then we've got configure. In configure, you see we have source, caption, responsive, primary color, secondary color. Now, it's not that we've duplicated those values. I mean, we kind of have. It's that is establishing this form of input. And so for configure, we can add those things. Then there's an advanced category. I haven't added anything to advanced, but this might be if you had, maybe a YouTube specific setting, and that's not going to be for general purpose. We could always throw that over in the advanced form, make your change, get your data binding, but that's for your less common options, right? Most likely I would put responsive in there, whether or not it's responsive, because most people are going to want responsive video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this whole block. So when you are pulling in the behavior, even though I don't have a set HAX properties function, that's going to be pulled in from the behavior because you get to reuse part of another element. And so I'm going to just copy this whole thing with the attached copy. We're going to go over to lrndesign-panelcard. We've got HAX properties and property behaviors. Okay. And now this doesn't have any functions yet, so I'm going to add the first one. and paste that in. Now some of these I can just port over. I believe this does have a primary color, secondary color type connotation, but in this case we call it color and text color. So what I'm going to do is color is the background and text color is the foreground. So I'm going to take my color property, we'll go down in here, and let's start to edit the metadata. This is the stuff that will register when it appears in HAX. So what is this? Well, it's a panel card, and we will say that this is a sticky note card, because that's what it is basically. People don't need to care that it's a panel, a panel card. A small sticky note to offset text used for sidebar and asides and less important information. Probably shouldn't put that. Let's just say for asides. Okay, now we need an icon for it. And so where that icon is easiest to derive from is, I'm just going to search for iron icons. We can rope in other icon libraries, just sticking to the Google ones for the moment. So we need something that implies that this is like a note card. Search for the word card. Credit card, yeah, it'd be great to put a credit card there, right? Maybe a outline box, that's perfectly fine for the moment. It's just to get something on there, quite frankly. So unless I search for like box, check boxes and things, inbox. Okay, so let's take that just blank outline, check mark here, back to Sublime, and I'm going to paste that in. I don't need the prefix of icons because that's the default. Okay, I'm not going to make this red by default. We're going to make it yellow. And this is under the grouping. So this is kind of your metadata, if at a later point in time people could filter. So this isn't for presenting video. This is just text and perhaps aside. And we'll put it under visual treatment. That might be a good way of just saying that it's kind of a layout element. And heck, I should probably put the word layout then. So this is type text in this case. So this is your what can it handle. This is only important when you get into the sources and kind of guessing how to present something. So that part has to be fleshed out more fully. But so for right now, we're just going to say that this is text and it's going to be binded to title. So you're telling HAX, oh, by the way, this gizmo, if you have text, you can send it to me. And so that then this is the property matchup. So if HAX said, hey, okay, you asked for text, I have text, you are then saying, okay, well, whatever that text is, inject it into my title by default. The author of this, and this is just metadata, but the author of this is LRN Web Components, which is our organization that makes these. And so now we get into the actual form settings as they're presented. So let's go up, and we have quick settings. I'm thinking quick settings would just be like your color options. Or, I might actually put elevation in there as well, just because it's, it would be nice to see visually what the difference is while it's there versus something like title. You could edit that on a form. But at the same time, heck, let's just put them all in. So title, color, text color, and elevation. Okay, so then the property name in this case is elevation. And this is for humans to see. Visually how high this is off the page. Okay, that is not a Boolean. I don't believe I have numerical input, so at the moment we'll just have to say it's a text field. And then icon, again, go back to our icons here. I might actually just take that, the copy, the content copy, because it's kind of expressing that it's up. That, and I don't think there's like a height value or anything like that. I'm not seeing one. Okay, so let's just use that one for now. So elevation, we're going to say is content copy, and we're going to move copy, paste elevation down here. I actually want the first thing to be title as opposed to elevation, but now elevation will be down here. Let's change this one to title. Title, actually let's call it heading. And the heading for this sticky note. Heck, make it title. Input method is text in that case. Probably can just make this the word text. Let's search for icons, text, text format, short text. There we go. Editor text. That's the one I'm thinking. Text. Okay. So put in editor text there. And now we get into color. So you can see I already have a primary and a secondary. So let's make this background color and text color. Although I'm going to add some accessibility settings to that in the future. We don't really want people to be able to edit text color, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to take, well, we'll leave it in for now just to show how you can wire that. This isn't primary color, it is just color. Okay. And we have select the background color to use, don't need the specificity. Okay, and making these sentences. So let's now say select the text color to use. Okay. Now we've got input method is color picker in this case. That's one that HAX already knows how to handle, is color picking. And so then this is text color, but it's actually text color. There we go. So let's go up, make sure that that is text color. It is text color, cool. Okay, editor, format, color fill, background color. This is our text color. We have elevation in here. Okay, so now I want all of these to be able to be modified when you're configuring. And so it may seem a little silly at times, but I'm actually going to copy a large chunk of this. So let's keep caption for now. So I'm going to mess with that one. And now let's place all of the rest of these in here. Okay, we're not going to have anything on advanced, although, you know, we did mention text color, and we don't really want people to be able to modify text color, so that could potentially be something up for grabs in the advanced form. Now, you see we have, this is not going to be a property, because we can map to slots too, so it's going to be slot, and I don't actually think you need to name slot one. I still need to work on the way that the slots will operate. But so the title of our slot in this case is just text, and the text for our sticky note. Okay, this will be a text field. Let's make it a text area, and this, it's fine. It's not going to have that. Let's just make it editor text, or title rather. Editor title. It's not required. You can say that things are required. You can put it in a validation type as well. You can get pretty expressive with some of these, but I'm not going to require any of this, quite frankly. And so let's save that. So now what will happen is HAX, when it's loading up, will say, hey, actually, from a form presentation perspective, let's put that one first, the title. So HAX is going to say, okay, I've got these elements, who's able to be modified, and lrndesign-panelcard is more or less going to put its hand up. And so the way I know it's going to put its hand up is because it has this set HAX properties. And so what set HAX properties does, if we look at HAX Body Behaviors, or just HAX Body, go to the GitHub here, body behaviors, is it's got that function, that set property, set HAX properties there. And so set HAX properties is going to validate that what you put in is legitimate. It's going to then set those properties on the object itself so that it has something called HAX properties. You see here, there's properties, HAX properties. And then it's going to fire an event up that says HAX register properties. And so it's going to, the tag, when the tag is appended to the page, attached, so to speak, it's going to actually fire a message up, an event, saying, hey, I have properties that have been registered. Does anyone care? And all the way up at the top of any HAX relationship here is the HAX store. And the HAX store is listening for things claiming to be valid gizmos that have been registered. And so let's refresh this, and hopefully we don't see anything really change. We do see HAX behaviors, property behaviors listed as a valid behavior. The API reference aspect is the same, and our element should look and function exactly the same. The point of HAX is that it's kind of this invisible wiring that you've put in that's very lightweight. And so, okay, so now I have lrndesign-panelcard. How do we get that into HAX Body here? So let's go to the HAX Body. Okay, so we've got HAX Body, and we've got, it's down here somewhere. We've got, whoops, lrndesign panel card. There's panel card. Okay, and so I'm going to, just for the sake of doing it, because I'm testing locally, I'm going to copy lrndesign-panelcard, the directory, into HAX Body. This is kind of an intermediary step that I take. I put it in Bower components. So I'm putting there as if it was just installed. That's the equivalent of when you run Bower install. It'll show up here. It won't have this additional data on it. So I'll just delete that anyway. And the reason I do this is that so if there's anything that needs tweaked prior to wanting to put this up, I can still do that. So I'm going to actually put that folder into Sublime Text as well. Let's add it over here, this alternate lrndesign-panelcard. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of the version that's running inside of HAX Body, so that if I notice anything, I can make those changes. So now I got to get this to show up. And what I'm going to do in HAX Body, in the index where you can see this is kind of your equivalent of if you were to deploy this. I'm going to scroll through here, and there's a thing called auto. There it is. HAX Autoloader. And HAX Autoloader has a bunch of tags. And so if you imagine if you were wiring this into a content management system or some application you have, you would actually then kind of have your CMS or other delivery mechanism deliver these tags in. So when I say that we don't necessarily want you using all the tags that we have predefined and said these are the tags that matter, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to take some of them out, and you'll see they go away. So I'm going to take out those ones, and then I'm going to put in place lrndesign-panelcard just as a blank. I'm not going to give it anything else. And so now, let's refresh that HAX Body demo. And nothing should really have changed initially. That's good. I can go to Gizmos, and I can go to Make Gizmo. Hey, there's our sticky note card. And so it's automatically taken that information, it noticed it when the page loaded, and now it shows up here. You can also notice that the other ones I had disappeared because I deleted them from that area. So let's take our sticky note card, throw it in here. You see I get a preview of the sticky note card. You see it's injected its default value for title. So now as I type, it updates. And so you can see we still need to mess with the slot aspect because this can get ridiculous. It needs to wipe the slot and then repaint it basically, just with the way that it's currently currently set in motion. So I do need to manipulate that. You can see we have a color picker, and the color picker may need some additional cleanup, okay? And then elevation, I can say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you see it's visually changing there. If I do 6, that's not a valid option, so we will want some kind of input range type of thing for validation. All right, I'm going to hit insert, and now I've got that tossed in the page, and so you see it has these. So now as I type, I update. I can select this, I can duplicate it because it's just any other component. You can see it's clearly that slot aspect needs to be cleaned up here. So for the time being, let's take the slot part out. And this is, again, this speaks to the kind of working back and forth between how we actually go about building these things. So let's find slot, and the slot is set to nothing. Let's take slot out, and then it won't show that option on the interface. Now it drastically reduces the usefulness of the panel card. But, all right, so refresh. Sticky note, and now I don't have that field there, and we need to get the colors wired up correctly as far as making the correct selection, and I think I know what's going on there as well. But 3, 2, 1, yay. Okay, 5. All right, and so this is my new heading. All right, insert. So we have it in there. I have the resizer because it said to have it. Now, this potentially could influence my element, right? So this says, hey, you can resize this little thing, but the card itself, if you noticed in the construction of the card had things that make it only so wide. So it's only relative to the material that's been placed in it, basically. So it's not going to stretch to fill this whole container. So that may or may not be super useful to do. It could change if I have a lot of text, though. I could say, hey, let's make this be right justified, and we're going to make it 100% width, or 25. You can see it start to influence it there. We could update the title, update to this title. And so that was the quick form options that I added in. Background color, again, I need to make that translate, but you'll see that those are still it's still setting that information there. And then the elevation value, which the duplicate icon is a bad icon for that. And then I could jump to the settings, which would take me right into the form, and I would see it partially presented the way that it was previously. We can keep typing and typing and typing and typing and typing. And you can see, again, start to get into, okay, well, is this card designed correctly, or is it a problem with how HAX is trying to do it? And I'm going to say it's not HAX's fault if that looks ridiculous right there, because it is. So clearly you need to update the card itself. But I hope you can see how quickly you can start to wire up your own things. I also mentioned we can get into some OER schema type of wiring aspect. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to place a video in the page and show you what happens. So the schema behaviors that you can add in. You see this also, video player is a pretty decent example if you want to look at some of the ways we're doing these things. But so you can see we've got schema behaviors, and what schema behaviors is mixing in is this schema resource ID property is going to automatically show up. If we want to see what's in schema behaviors, really, let me go and find it on the side here. There we go, schema behaviors. Okay, and so schema behaviors is going to have a resource ID, which is important when you're schematizing content to have a unique resource ID. And then it's going to have the map. And the map is what types of schema you want to wire into this content. So out of the box, this is going to default to bib and Creative Commons, FOV, DC schema, and OER schema. So whenever the map changes, right, you could pass into this, hey, we don't want schema.org. I don't know why you would say that, but let's say we didn't want schema.org, then we could take that one specifically out. You have a function that generates a resource ID. And so whenever the map changes, it's going to automatically generate a resource ID, and it's going to put that in the schema resource ID value. And it's going to set an attribute actually on the element itself. So what happens, in reality here is, let's find something. We'll find something on YouTube. We'll say it's an LN video, and we'll plug it in. This is my caption. You can see the color behaviors in action there, as far as the way that should happen, as opposed to what it did a second ago with the other tag. So I'll put that in, and I'll turn off HAX for a second. What is going on in the DOM here with that OER, with the schema one, is you see video player has our unique resource ID that's been automatically generated. Then in the prefix area, it's going to prefix and reference all of those different schema sources correctly. And then from there, you could use the schema stuff inside your tag however you'd want. So what we've done is, you see the iframe ends up getting a resource with -video. So we actually have a unique resource ID with unique parts within it if we needed to abstract those later for some reason. Let's say that you put in text like video caption text, or like I had that little, the card with the title. We could start to wire schema automatically into our design things, and now we've created an authoring experience based on what the design should be, but then we're also wiring it for better finding of data and information via what affordances schema gets us, as far as better teaching machines the intent of our content. So if you want to learn more about element creation and what HAX is in general, I'm going to be recording more and more of these videos. You can go to haxtheweb.org, or you can search for HAX on webcomponents.org and look for HAX Body, which is the tag that's providing all of this. There's some CMS integrations that we've been working hard on, so you can check that out if you want to get it going in a system you've already made, or want to work on a new integration. We're trying to get this kind of all over the place so that we can work more collaboratively.